All right, Southwest Florida, welcome to another edition of Lee Pitts Live, right here on Wink CW Channel 6. We're so excited to be here at the famed Luminary Hotel in downtown Fort Myers. Got an outstanding show in store for you today. Katrina is back. She'll get a chance to hear her with her building a world-class business and get a chance to hear her fantastic guests on the show. Also, we'll get a chance to talk to the superintendent, the interim superintendent, Dr. Savage of the Lee County School District. All that's happening on Lee Pitts Live. We'll be right back. All right, Southwest Florida, so thrilled to get the superintendent here on our show. Let's bump him in for his first time. Certainly won't be your last. You got at least, you'll probably be around here for, based on my experience. I know they're out there doing a national search, but based on my experience, Dr. Savage, it's not going to meet the deadline. You'll be around a little longer than you anticipate. So my research on you say you're doing a really good job so far. And just tell me, how's it been functioning as the interim superintendent so far?
Well, Lee, first off, I just have to say it's a privilege. You are a local icon, so to actually be a guest on your show, I'm just thrilled to be here. I grew up in Fort Myers, so this is home to me. I went to elementary school at Villas Elementary. I went to middle school at Paul Lawrence Dunbar Middle School, which is now Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School, but it was a middle school, and I went there, and then I also went to Cypress Lake High School. So it's really the pinnacle of my career to have an opportunity to come back and serve my home. Every day is a learning opportunity, but it's a privilege to serve my home community. And
thanks for making me feel old, calling me an icon, but I take that in stride, my friend. And check this out. So you come in as the interim superintendent when all kinds of once-in-a-lifetime things happen in, like last 100 years or so. There hasn't been a kind of a pandemic like this in America. Talk about that day one coming in and a whole lot of things are going on like that.
Oh yes, well, late June, thinking back, we were looking good. I mean, the numbers are way down. Everybody was ready. The masks came off. We were having get-togethers again. We were so excited to have a normal school year. So here I am, interim superintendent, stepping in, steady the ship, get a nice way to get us through the search process, just give everyone a sense of normalcy. And then the Delta hit, and we opened school earlier, right in the middle of the worst surge we had seen. As you said, 100 years. And so, the whole pandemic, while the pandemic is nothing new, the Delta brought challenges unlike anything we had experienced the entirety of it, more than quadruple some of the numbers that we had seen. We actually, within the first 4 weeks of school, we had surpassed what we had done in over 6 months. So it just was a real difficult challenge. But the truth is, in leadership, I don't go to this office for the easy work. It's not a popularity contest. You have to go, firefighters run towards the fire. They don't run away from the fire. And that's really what it's about. It's about service. It's about serving my community, and that's really what it's all about.
We're in the process of embarking on a new fiscal year throughout the county and the city. What is the state of the Lee County School District right now?
Well, financially, we're in pretty good shape. I mean, financially, that's when you have lots of students, then that's really how we're largely funded for our operational side of it. And then also, because of the generosity of our community supporting us with a half-penny sales tax, that's allowed a lot of our capital needs to be met, building new schools, things we simply could not do if we didn't have that additional revenue. Additionally, beyond that, we also have with ESSER funds, because of the pandemic, a significant infusion of federal funds too to supplement our efforts. That's done specifically to try to help kids catch up on learning. It's really important.
I want you to Sesame Street that for me. You said ESSER funds?
ESSER, yeah. This is all federal. Yeah, there's a number of, basically, because of the pandemic, through the current plans that we have from the federal government, there are significant levels of additional funding. Now, it's not forever. It's non-recurring. That gives us about 3 years to look at to try to help close a lot of the gaps that have happened in achievement. It's also to meet some basic needs, just in terms of mental health, a lot of those issues. So this gives us additional resources to address those additional needs.
What have you learned so far from being a superintendent?
Oh boy. Well, I feel like I learn every day on the job. I thought I had a pretty good amount of experience and understanding, and then you pretty much learn every day what you don't know. I also learned something very important about our board. We have 7 board members, each individual people. In this role, you get a chance to know them as people. And I think that's one of the great privileges, is I've had an opportunity not just from an educator standpoint in a system, but to get to know 7 people and their individual passions and what they want to try to do to make this community better and to help be a part of that team. To me, the big theme is unity. When I pursued the interim role, my goal was to bring people together. We had often some divided things happening on our board. We have a very divided community. It's a very challenged time. And so my job is to bring people together, to allow us to focus on what we can all agree is the most important thing, and that's our children. So if we can put our children first, we can put our community and really serving our community at the forefront of everything we do, put our own personal issues aside, that's really what I've hoped to achieve. And so just learning how to do that has been something that every day I try to unpack a little bit more.
Early on, you talked about just steadying the ship, but when you came in, one of the things I've noticed is you're putting various structures in place to ensure the education system runs the way it should run. Talk about some of those structures that you put in place.
Yeah, one of the things we had, last year we were allowed to do a lot of different virtual options. This year we had fewer of those things that we were allowed to do. So our students came back in person, which we know is so important. That's how the community runs. But how do you do it safely? So we had to put a lot more safety processes in place. But we also had to supplement for those folks who didn't feel safe enough to return to school, for students who are quarantined at home because of the highly contagious Delta variant. How can we extend that learning at home even though we didn't have a lot of the state flexibilities that we were given last year? So we had to put a lot of new programs in place to allow that virtual access during the day. So we had something, as one example among many others, live tutoring during the day. So as families are trying to homeschool their children or attending virtual school, if you need help, you can tune into our live programming. So you can have a tutor, essentially a live virtual tutor, who can help you with whatever math problems you have or whatnot. Because a lot of parents, they don't know necessarily help their children with that. And so just trying to provide those additional resources. That's just one example.
Would that fall in the category of wraparound support, academic support systems?
Well, for us, the real wraparound services are attempting to meet something even deeper. So yeah, we focus so much on teaching and learning, but can children learn when they're hungry? Can children learn when they're handling chronic stress or they've been abused? No. They not consistently. And so it's real important. The wraparound services are really about really thoughtful partnerships, pulling people together, all of our community agencies and support systems, nonprofits, all the people who truly want to make this community better and working together to do that. So the wraparound services offer things such as mental health counseling, additional medical care, things of that nature. In fact, we've got 2 schools I'd love to highlight. One is we're rebuilding Franklin Park. Which is wonderful. Historic part of our community, truly an opportunity to do it, not just rebuild that school, but to rebuild a vision of a comprehensive community wraparound school. So putting those services that families rely upon in the heart of our community, a partnership to do that the right way. Not just all school district, but a lot of other partners. Lee Health, United Way could not do it without United Way and all the additional pieces they pull in. Fort Myers Housing Authority, everyone working together. To partner up to Southward Village, that all of that work that's happening on pulling that together for Franklin Park. What this would allow families to do is to not only have their children there at school, but to give families the support they need. So parents could receive counseling and things like that. Parents could receive parenting help, just additional resources to meet those basic needs. Then Fort Myers Middle is an opportunity for us to expand that work, and so we've kind of expanded that footprint a little bit in that piece. Now we just started with a local donation of about $750,000 with one of our local foundation, local community groups to help get some of those parallel approaches off the ground. Planning. It's really in the planning stages right now. We'd love to then extend it up to the high schools. So the point in all of that is, what are those issues that keep kids from accessing the type of education that we all want for every single child, no matter where they're born, no matter what socioeconomic situation they have. And quite frankly, that's our mission. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, people sitting here listening to these great ideas and initiatives that are being put in place under your administration. They're saying, well, hey, he's just there as an interim. How can we assure that these things are going to continue after you step down as the interim superintendent? So let me put that in a two-pronged question. One, is it an absolute fact that you cannot become the full superintendent because of the way everything is designed by the board?
No, not necessarily. Dr. Atkins was an interim superintendent, and then 6 years later he was retiring. So it certainly there's nothing outside the realm. But quite frankly, the way I look at it is, I want the very best person for this job. I want the very best possible person, because that's what I deserve as a mentor. It's what all of our teachers deserve. It's what my fellow leaders, it's what our families deserve. It's what our children deserve. It's what my children deserve. And so whoever that person is, wherever they may come from, whether that's a local person, whether that's a person from somewhere in the country, wherever they come from, that's what I want for us.
Okay, so based on that, you're saying that you don't see yourself as the best possible person for that job.
Well, no, I give it my best every day. Fortunately, that's not my choice anyways. It's the board's choice. They get to make that decision. It's not a decision I have to make. The way I look at it is, it's always a relay race. And I hold the baton as long as I have it. I pass that baton to the next person. My job's to lead every day the way as if I'm leading for 100 years. It doesn't matter if it's 3 months, 6 months, 100 years. I have to lead that way every single day.
Talk about employment opportunities, nationwide searches, and how our district here in Lee County is being able to manage the process of getting quality teachers and administrators into the district.
Yeah, that is the #1 challenge we are facing right now. And we're not the only one. I mean, it's a school district issue across the country. We have a massive shortage of teachers and support staff, bus drivers. I mean, you name it. We are really struggling in pretty much every aspect of our organization where we need people. We are short. That is a problem, because what that does for us is the people who are left to do the extra work have to work overtime. They have to work longer hours, do 2 jobs. So that stretches the people who are already there beyond what I think is humane. So that is our #1 pressing issue. And it's a lot of factors that contribute to that.
Talk about how we're handling the COVID-19, even though it's winding down, but just what's happening in the school system now in terms of safety and a short version of that.
Yeah, we're in the best numbers we've had in a very, very long time, really since probably June. The numbers are fantastic. The positivity rates come way, way down. The sad thing, though, with any of these respiratory-borne pathogens is that we can see a recurrence. You know, we very well may see it again during the seasonal flu. Now, hopefully it won't be nearly as bad as what we just went through. What we just went through was the worst we've experienced. If it were to come back again, you know, our thought process is we've kind of identified what we call a tiered mitigation approach, where certain strategies we deploy when things get really, really bad, like what is referred to as a surge. During that surge time, that's when all hands are on deck. Masks, every little thing you look at, the distancing. And then as we move to lower and lower levels, like where we are now, a lot of those different processes are coming down. So we have a medical educational task force that is making recommendations on that. And actually they met earlier this week. They'll meet next week to help us with that piece.
What did we learn from students having to take classes away from in-person interaction in the classroom, as opposed to doing it on their computers and things of that nature?
Yeah, we had kind of a hunch going into this that students would learn better in person. That was what we thought. And what we found was, by and large, that was true. However, there were some students who actually learned better remotely. And so we tried to learn what are the positive lessons we learned from remote instruction and self-paced instruction for students who are highly motivated and learn best in that environment. But at the same time, we acknowledge, as we kind of thought we would, so many students did not learn well in that type of environment at all, and experienced not just a real substantial loss of learning. So now we're further behind than where we needed to be. So how do we bring and catch things up? That's why I've tossed out ideas of a pilot of some type of year-round programming using some of these additional federal funds. That wouldn't be in all schools, of course. That would be in pilot schools, and specifically trying to target for students and families longer days, potentially longer year, things of that nature, to allow people a chance to catch up where they came down. But again, those are pilots. They're just talked about opportunities.
Critical race theory has become like a household word around here now, in terms of how we're going to teach in school, how slavery is going to be taught, just the impact of teaching these various things. Talk about the Lee County School District and how your approach is towards critical race theory.
So critical race theory, by and large, really refers to beyond the K-12, higher, the college level, and where they really get into a very deeper study. In the K-12 system, really across the whole state of Florida, we teach the standards. That's every district. While we are local control districts, We all are required to teach the state standards. So when folks believe that we're teaching critical race theory, the truth is that that's not something we're allowed to do. We are only allowed to teach the standards. Now, where it gets into interpretation is what kinds of materials, what type of passages people are reading, and it's a very questionable conversation. There's obviously a lot of political charge to it, but the reality for us is we teach the standards. If people want to see our curriculum plans, they can look at our website, the state website. We only teach off of state-adopted materials, textbooks. We don't get to pick and choose those things. Those are things that we have to go through the state. So that's our position, is always that we teach the standards.
Bathrooms. Who would think that bathrooms would be such a big issue in terms of people and identifying themselves in terms of their gender, how the school district would have bathrooms, whether males would be able to go into female bathrooms if they consider themselves multi-gender or something like that. I get the word wrong, but you can speak to that. Go.
Sure. So, the really what it comes down to is that we are responsible from a Title IX and federal and state level of non-discrimination, that we just have to follow federal and state non-discrimination. That's the bottom line. We have a board policy that speaks to that, and is basically just echoes the exact letter of the law. There was an executive order that Joe Biden signed when he was sworn into office, and it was back in January. And we just follow the letter of the law. That's all we do. I mean, that's, again, we don't pick and choose. We don't make it up as we go. We simply follow the law as it states, which is essentially that we cannot discriminate on that basis of gender identity as defined within that executive order and within the federal and state non-discrimination.
Okay, Sesame Street that for me. So if a born male identifies himself as a female, that born male can go into which restroom?
Yeah, so we have a process at our schools, essentially, that we follow, which is that any individual student, in order to avoid feeling discriminated, they work with administration at their school, and then their school supports that individual on that individual issue to avoid any type of feeling of discrimination on the part of that individual student. That's how they work it. It's a case-by-case situation. It's truly how they do it. We don't have a blanket situation that we apply to it, other than we cannot discriminate on the basis of gender identity, or all the other protected classes. So they sit down with the student. They talk to the student. They have a kind of a support questionnaire. They kind of go through and ask them specific questions. They develop a plan. They identify. I mean, this is how it works. And then if there are issues, because the challenges are unique. And let's take it out of the hot button idea of gender identity. Let's talk about a child who has a colostomy bag. They have a specific operation, they have now and they're insecure about it. Or a child who has significant, back acne, and they're afraid to undress in front of their fellow kids in front of the locker room. What do? We use common sense. We say, okay, we don't want that child to feel embarrassed. We don't want that child to feel bad about themselves. That's not our objective ever, is to dehumanize children. So we work with them. We use common sense, and we've done that for as long as I've been an educator. I mean, we've done that. This is just a way of supporting in an evolving space where people, are going through all sorts of different individual personal journeys, very personal things. How can we protect them? How can we make them feel protected and protect everyone else at the same time?
We've had a lot of change in population over the years. Now we're in the redistricting process of the districts, the maps for the county, and how that's going to play out politically, we will see. But just talk about the high-level discussion of redistricting as it relates to the Lee County School District.
Yeah, that's a great question. Right now, it's one person, one vote. That's really how it works. So the basic theory around it is you try to distribute your population into somewhat equal level of community, or comparable within a certain threshold. And every time the census comes out, when you get new data, it's an opportunity to look at that. Though technically, we could redistrict every odd year. So it could really be something we go through every 2 years. Now, as a school district, we have the opportunity to either, and this is really a board level decision on their part, do we want to have individual, they're single member, so they vote in a slightly different way, but the county, as a matter of their work, actually has 7 maps that they've looked at. So I think 5, and then a 6A and a 6B, and then they're considering another map. And so as they've commissioned that work, we received the census data back very, very late. So they worked very quickly on that, put together some maps. We could use them, we could ignore them. We don't have to necessarily go along any of those ways. There are other groups too that might put forward maps and have indicated that interest. So for our board members, they get all that information, they take it under advisement, they determine what they want to do, and this year it's a pretty tight timeline, so that's just an evolving thing. Anyone who wants to know, I encourage them to check out our website, look at the timeline that we have, and it very much mirrors the county timeline. But again, we may decide to defer and look at it for 2023. We may want to wait and see. So it's a very interesting discussion.
Well, Mr. Superintendent, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to take a look into that camera and talk to the citizens of the city of the county, Lee County, in terms of the school district. Go ahead.
Well, I will just say it's such a privilege again to be the superintendent here. It's the honor of my lifetime, truly. Professionally, I can't imagine coming to work every day feeling more important, more impactful. It's my obligation to do the best I can to serve our children, to serve this entire community. So we want your involvement. We want you to tell us what's working. We want you to tell us what's not working. We want to know. Our board members feel the same way. We are truly, as a group, we want this school system to be world class. Lee County is my heart and my joy. So anything I can do to make it better, please let me know.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure having the show. Looking forward to getting you back in the future. Stay right there. As the saying goes on this particular show, for those who say it can't be done, they're usually interrupted by those like our fine superintendent. Also, Miami has the oranges, but Fort Myers got the
juice.
We got the juice. We'll be right back with Katrina.
Lee Pitts Live is a Lee Pitts Enterprise production.
Hello, everybody. This is Lee. I'm so glad that you watched that particular show. And if you enjoyed that show, we got other shows like that. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Watch Lee Pitts Live on demand anytime. And also hit us up on all our social media platforms. Just type in Lee Pitts Live, and there you go.